Welcome to the Career Wanderlust podcast, your compass for new career horizons. Today, we are talking with Blair Broussard. Blair is a seasoned communication strategist with over 17 years of experience in communications, change management, and corporate storytelling. Her career spans leadership roles in industries like B2B tech, healthcare, telecommunications, where she has cultivated a passion for fostering alignment, transparency, and employee engagement. Now, as the former chief operations and people officer at Alloy Marketing, Blair played a pivotal role in scaling the agency from a two-person startup to a thriving team of 50. Incredible. And currently, Blair serves as a senior consultant for Cox Communications. She is known for her approachable style and sharp insights. Blair is a sought after speaker and consultant who thrives on tackling complex workplace dynamics with humor and humanity. I'm really excited to learn more. Blair, thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, I know you have a wealth of experience. I've worked with you in the past. I'm excited to hear what you have to share. And I love your career trajectory as well because you've really grown with yourself, it feels like, within your career. I'm wondering if you have a favorite piece of career advice or if there's something that has helped you along your way that you could share with us and why did it help you?
Yes, I do. I had a lot. I was thinking about this before we started recording. There's so many pieces of advice I've gotten, but this one's a little bit of a piece of advice and actually ended up becoming one of our core values. It's called being unapologetically human. And right? And to be quite honest, a lot of people tell you, be yourself. And you're like, "Okay, all right, fine, whatever, I'll be myself." But
Mhm.
when someone puts it in the unapologetically human piece, it gives you permission to not just be yourself, but make mistakes. It gives you the permission to ask questions because guess what? None of us know anything. And so if I'm approaching a challenge, it just kind of gives me that permission to be creative and not maybe do things by the book. And it reminds me that what I bring to the table, even though I don't know everything, even though I don't have questions, even if I mess up, I am still bringing something that is authentically me. In that in and of itself is special. It's a talent
Mhm.
because there's only one of me, there's only one of you, and so it's just a really great reminder and way harder to put in practice than you would think in the corporate world.
It is, but it's so important. I love this advice so much. It is incredibly important, and exactly how you said it too, that putting it in that way, because we get that advice in different ways, but that has this
Mhm.
something inside that releases something in you, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, we are all human and unapologetically so. This is where we all are. And I feel like what it does is it helps strip that judgment away from the things, right? Because that's where we really need to we need to strip away the judgment and just replace it with curiosity.
Right.
Right?
I was sitting in a meeting today where I had to take a deep breath and remind myself that it was okay that I didn't know the answer. And quite frankly, there was probably at least 10 other people on the meeting that didn't know the answer. And guess what?
Exactly.
I was right. When
Exactly.
everyone else thought they were the only ones that didn't understand what was going on. So
It's perfect. Now, is there anything that has helped you practice that? Because, like you said, it is harder to practice, particularly in the corporate world. Is there anything you found that's helped you, I don't know, remind yourself of it or bring it forth in this world, if you will?
I think I talked about this with a friend of mine a couple weeks ago. It's something I feel. I don't know if there's you can write it on a Post-it.
Mhm,
Some people may wanna put it in their calendar. It's okay
mhm.
to be unapologetically human. It's actually my core value, whatever that reminder needs to be. But for me, I've learned how to why am I feeling uncomfortable? Why am I feeling stressed out? Why am I feeling like I don't know what to do next? It's
Yeah.
probably because I'm not being myself. I'm not asking the questions. I'm overthinking, overanalyzing in my head, worried about what other people think of me versus about thinking about how do I best get this job done?
That's a lot of
And
self-awareness there, right, too, right? It's yes, I love that. I'm applauding that.
it's in a lot of therapy, okay?
Well, no, look, self-awareness is a key factor for success. Let's be real. If therapy's bringing self-awareness to you, then you better be thanking that because I've read many studies that it's actually the number one factor for success for CEOs. So I became fascinated with it because I was reading about how it impacted leadership and how self-awareness was actually like the more self-aware a CEO is, the higher their success rate, essentially.
Yeah.
And here's what's so fascinating is that's just true in life too. Oh, in fact, I asked ChatGPT at the beginning of the year, what is one thing that humans can do for themselves that will make the biggest impact on humanity around them, on the world around them? And that was ChatGPT's answer was self-awareness will essentially change the world. If you can get to
Uh,
yourself, it's going to make the biggest impact on the world around you. So,
Powerful.
right? Yeah. So good advice.
Thanks. Me and ChatGPT just saving the world over here.
I love it. So now what about a story? Because I love a story, and I am sure you have many.
Oh, yeah.
And is there anything that has had a big impact on you that you learned from that could be beneficial for us to hear about?
There's so many things. I'm unsure where to start. I'll
And
give
feel
you
free
a
to share a couple if you want to. I'm just
like,
saying.
does it have to relate to this unapologetically human?
No, anything. Yeah.
So I do want to talk about, just we talked about leadership. So I guess this is a good segue or a good story for leadership in general. I think when you step into a leadership role, as we did almost accidentally, we started an agency. There were two of us, and we ended up with 50 people. That wasn't necessarily the plan at the very beginning.
Uh-huh. I love when you say it was
Um,
accidentally.
and we were in our late 20s and, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. I mean, let's be real. And I know I think you may have heard the story before, Jolie, but it was one of these moments of, "Oh, we're now the boss." And, "Uh-oh, no one prepares you for this. You don't get a college course in management, unfortunately, or a
Mhm,
graduate school course in management.
mhm,
You have to seek it out. You have to look for other people, mentors, book, conferences, professional organizations, if you care about being a good manager." And as a lover of people and someone who had I don't know if we need to edit this, but oh shit moment. Um,
but
I would like, oh no, I need to learn how to be a good leader. How do I do that? My default was I'm going to be super empathetic because I love people and I want them to love me and I want them to love working here and I want to create this, warm, rah-rah culture. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, while that's part of the equation, that's not the whole equation.
Yeah.
And so I stumbled across this book that I'm sure everyone knows and if you know me, you're tired of hearing me talk about it, but it's called Radical Candor.
Mm.
Um,
One. Yeah.
The author's Kim Scott. She's worked in the tech industry and our agency represented tech companies. So it only seemed fitting. And it's kind of officially now my work Bible. It just empowered me so much at a time where our agency was in a high growth, fast paced stage where I just didn't want to lose the culture that we had, but it
Mhm.
also helped me to really redefine what being a great leader meant. So
Really
it
think
didn't
so.
just mean being that empathetic person, that's only one part of it. Hearing personally is part of radical
Mhm.
candor, but the part you're missing is the challenging directly. Because as much as I cared for them, what I realized is I was doing everyone a disservice by not being honest about their work product, by not being honest and transparent about the things that were going on within the company that may not have been all rainbows and sunshine.
Right.
What? To build trust and to be authentic and unapologetically human, you have to be able to have both of those conversations. You want to be able to praise people and promote people and encourage people, but in order for that to even mean anything, you have to be able to have the harder conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And so radical candor sounds very simple, caring personally, challenging directly. But if you put it into an example of, oh, I have a team member who their writing is not great. Well, that's
Mhm.
not great because guess what? We're in a PR, content marketing engine. I do. And so I would be doing them a disservice if I just rewrote their information.
Mhm.
And it got to the point where I had to make a hard decision and terminate that person because they weren't doing their job when they would come to me and be incredibly surprised by that termination because I never gave them a chance to improve. And
Mm.
so that's a very small example.
So such a good this is such a good topic though. So in that radical candor, because this is something that I know a lot of people struggle with. Look, I struggle with it myself too.
Everyone
You know,
does.
I mean, so I would love to know, is there advice that you got from this book that helped you tackle these types of things or even like in those first conversations when you had them? Is there any advice that you would give?
The advice of how to implement radical candor, there's a lot. I think the biggest question I always get when we have these conversations is how how do I build trust?
Mhm.
Because I think people get nervous when they have to give this feedback, right? If it's not positive, they get very nervous. Some people overcompensate and brush by the feedback and kind of deliver it in a shit sandwich, and that doesn't really hit home. Some
Mm,
people become what the book calls obnoxious aggressive,
mhm,
which it's it's almost like not wanting to deal with the emotion of giving
mhm,
this hard feedback.
mhm.
You all of a sudden become angry
So
and
angry,
mean.
right, right. This is yeah.
And guess what? You can scare people into doing things, but that is not sustainable. They'll be scared of you for maybe a week, a month, and then they'll either quit or
They
they'll
call
stop
me.
listening to you. Yeah.
You don't want them calling Jolie.
They call you. Oh my gosh, exactly. That's what happened. I don't know, maybe it is good for you. But I do think it's being honest with yourself that no one's perfect. We all have to have these conversations. In fact,
Right.
your employees should want to have these conversations with you because
Mhm,
you're always learning, you're always improving, there's always room for growth. So you build the trust by letting them give you feedback first
mhm,
and taking that feedback in stride and
mhm,
making changes and making adjustments. You give
mhm.
that feedback, but being honest about what's going on, whether it's positive or not. You give them that feedback by being very honest why they didn't get the promotion, right? I know
Right.
a lot of times that is a huge conversation no one wants to have with people. And listen, some of this takes some time. I
Mhm.
actually saw, and I go on a tangent. So I saw a snippet of an interview on TikTok. I forgot which CEO it was, but it was, Fortune 500 company where he said, one-on-ones aren't effective. And I thought,
Interesting.
that is the worst advice ever.
Yeah,
How
I'm
do
like,
you
where is that
build
coming from?
trust
Why?
from your team? They were coming Your one-on-ones are meant to help build trust. Your one-on-ones are to help give information you don't wanna give in front of constructive criticism you never wanna give in front of others, right? His
Yeah.
point was I think the point of his story was you don't wanna have one-on-ones because they're not productive, because there's normally, like, 3 or 4 other people that should be in the room to have these discussions, but I think he's looking at it all wrong. You don't wanna have one-on-ones with someone who's not your direct report. Okay,
Yeah.
fine, that's a different discussion, but to build that trust between manager and employee, it's imperative to implementing radical candor.
I completely agree. And the one-on-one is how like you said, it's how you build that connection. It ups the whole EQ of it all. I mean, that advice is completely counterintuitive to everything that I've learned through successful leadership and how to thrive really, not only in life, but in business.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I disagree.
Same, I would say the ball, but then like, going back to your original question, it's like, how do you implement this? It's a
Yeah.
struggle. I think one-on-ones are the, starter and building that trust
Yeah.
and discussion and not just, okay, what are you working on? That's not what these are. To have an impactful one, you need to be asking about their personal life for a little while. You need to you really want to learn to get to know someone on a different level. And that can be really hard if you have nothing in common, if you like me, I'm a single woman who's 40. So if I'm working with someone who's, has children and is also a woman with and married, like we need to find ways to connect. There are tons of ways.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it can't be that easy like water cooler talk, like how's the weather, how are your kids? Because it needs to go beyond that, and the only
Yeah.
way to get there is to have these conversations.
It is, and even like having these types of conversations about feedback, it helps reform those different not true beliefs that we might carry about it, right? Because for me, I mean, just listening to our conversation right now, it's reinforcing that belief that actually it's actually doing someone a favor, because I struggle with the negative feedback, I absolutely struggle with it, but giving negative feedback is a favor, and I need to keep reminding myself that by not sharing that with people, I'm oftentimes robbing them from the opportunity of making themselves better, of especially when you give feedback in a not in a mean, spiteful way, but in a way of trying to lift someone up and help them be better. When feedback is given in that way, it is much easier for someone to process it and then do something with it and actually move forward and try to be better with it.
Yeah, because you can also have people who have a personality like myself who this is something, I need to work on, but constantly wanting the feedback because they're scared someone is too scared to give it, right? They may have had a boss in the past who just wasn't direct with them, but then slapped them with something at the a year in review that they weren't expecting,
Right.
happened to me. So it's this fear that's come into my life of like, what am I doing wrong? Am I doing something wrong? So, that's unneeded anxiety by
Yes.
having that open dialogue.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. This is a really great conversation. I love this. It actually helps me. Radical candor. I know. So now, what about a challenge? Have you had any big? Well, okay, we've all had challenges. Is there a big challenge that you faced in your career that you were able to overcome that you're willing to share with us? And how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I kind of like I was thinking about this too before we started recording. I would say I have made a lot of different career jumps. I went from being someone who graduated in mass communication, who got a job during, right out during the Great Recession of
Yeah.
the early aughts in marketing,
It's
and
rough.
like, "Oh, marketing, this can't be that different and hard," and then the conversation was, "Well, you're the only millennial in the corporate office. Here's social media, figure it out." So so while that was looking in hindsight, that was really exciting, and it gave me a platform, and it opened so many doors for me that I would have never expected because in high school, I would have never social media didn't exist. I feel really old saying that, but it didn't. And I would have never known to say, when I grow up, I want to be a social media manager, right? And that didn't exist. And so just it's been very scary and challenging to say, I didn't go to school to be a doctor and became a doctor. I went to
Mhm.
school for this kind of esoteric like, broad practice of marketing, mass comm, etcetera, and it's just been this winding road of, "Okay, now I'm a social media expert. Okay, now I am helping to start this agency. I am a PR, marketing, integrated communications mastermind." And I hate to say the term "fake it till you make it" because I wish it was different, but I'll be
So
honest, I
worthy.
think that might be it for
That it
me personally, because I felt like such a fraud so often, and we can talk about women and having, imposter syndrome as well,
Mhm.
but I just felt like I'm constantly reinventing and evolving and learning and pushing, and it's continuing now,
Mhm.
the agency was acquired. I left after a year of transition, and I am continuing that transition now and entering a new world, consulting and working with Cox Communications, like you mentioned at the top of this podcast, and really taking on change management in a way more formal and strategic way than I ever have
Mhm.
before. And so here we are again,
Yes.
and during the tenure at the agency, moving from a practitioner who was executing and marketing to an operations and human resource executive. And so it's just been constant. And so everything has been fun and exciting and also a challenge. And it's just been a fake it till you make it kind of mindset.
Yeah, I love it personally. It is one of the key aspects of thriving in life. I mean, there are a lot of people who will talk negatively about the fake it till you make it, but honestly, I've studied this, and I've studied the successful people and fake it till you make it has a lot of truth to it. It really is. Our growth is on the other side of our comfortable nature. So, I mean, we have to get into an uncomfortable area in order to grow, in order to be, and an uncomfortable area is always an area that we don't know. We have to fake it till we make it. It's a part of the process. And really, when you go in and the fake it till you make it, and when you do it and you just even when you don't know what you're doing, but you go in and you do it and you keep your head up and you keep your shoulders back and you just pretend like you have the confidence even when you don't, it tricks your brain into believing so. It tricks your body into continuing to move. And you know what? That's how we come to know it.
Right. It's an interesting concept that's very closely related to being unapologetically human. And I think that's how I got there, right?
Yeah.
In of saying, I don't know everything, I'm not perfect. And I've finally figured out at this time in my life, many people, no one else does. Really, no one
No,
else does.
no, seriously. Oh, that's what I mean. The new CEOs, they're absolutely a brand new CEO is absolutely sitting in their office having that imposter syndrome, pulling out the fake it till you make it. I don't want anyone to know I don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out. I mean, any new position we go in, if we've not done it before, we're going to have to spend some time figuring it out and faking it till we make it. And yes, it's a really important conversation. Like you mentioned the imposter syndrome, because we all do have that. It's a topic I'm actually very passionate about because I used to think that it was like special to me, that no one else did. I would look around me and I just thought that everyone just had it together, that they just were so confident, and I was the only one that had this crippling anxiety or a belief that it wasn't enough to do this or wasn't, right. But no, we all actually feel that way.
I know, and that's so
Mm.
powerful. That is yeah, it's human, and that's so powerful, and, one of the other things that one of my friends mentioned to me recently was, you just kind of always show up, and that was maybe one of the best compliments ever because, yeah, I really and she meant it in a very flattering way,
Yeah. Mhm.
just even if you're scared, even if you don't know what
No,
you're doing, you still go and do it, and
it's a great compliment.
that's cool, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "It is scary, thank you for acknowledging it."
I mean, yes, that's how we win in life. That's how we experience new things. That's how we grow. That's how we succeed. Is definitely showing up and doing that. So that is one of the best compliments. I love it. Yeah, really, really good. I mean, now, is there anything on this topic? Is there anything that you have found helps you with your imposter syndrome when you're in that new moment? Is there anything that helps you with the fake it till you make it that you could share, just out of curiosity, that we didn't already discuss?
I'd say extreme anxiety, which is not a good thing.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll be very real. I'm an incredibly anxious
Yeah,
person. Unfortunately for me, it's something I'm working on. I think
same.
unfortunately it's helped me at least till now. I don't want it to help me for the rest of my career. These are all like incredibly terrible interview answers.
Yeah. One of my podcast guests said, how did she put it? I'm not going to use the right word, but it was something like harnessed anxiety or sharpened it, like basically turning her anxiety into superpower, essentially, which I think is what a lot of us do is what's important is we learn how to deal with it as far as like a mental health way. I mean, at least I have a lot of tools that I've learned. Of course, a lot of them came later on in life, I will be honest. The past 5 years, I've really had a lot of go around some of these tools to help with it. Yeah, but it is, like, it's learning how to harness it and then use that to move you forward in the right ways.
No, that's a great way to put it. Harnessed anxiety. I'll use that moving forward. Yeah, I do think, of course, like having a community surround you that you can, talk to night or day, vent to, whatever that looks like, whether it's family or friends or whomever, colleagues. I've had a really strong community I've built just to support me when I need it. Especially over the last few years, I've come to really recognize that's imperative for me to move forward. And I guess the third thing is going to be what I think maybe I mentioned in ties to unapologetically human, which is kind of learning to listen to my body.
Ooh,
Yeah.
really good one. Oh, that's something we really forget to do so often. I know, I mean, that's something I also have learned more recently. How do you do that? There's a lot of people that haven't even thought about this or struggle with it. Is there anything that you would say to those types of people?
Yes, I'd say, well, for me, I was so burnt out, I didn't even realize I wasn't paying attention to my body and the signals it was giving me. And, that's step 1 is just being
Mhm.
aware that your body does give you signals.
Right.
I wasn't paying attention. Step 2 is it's gonna take you a while to figure out how to listen to yourself.
Mhm.
And so I was setting alarms like a couple times a day to just
Mhm.
force myself to check in. And some people might put a calendar reminder. Some people might, you know, have some way to start and end the day that really like removes them from work too.
Mm,
But I do think that's really, especially in the last, like I said, couple years, helped me
really good advice. I love that.
remember the most important things are and
Yeah.
not overreact and overanalyze. I do feel like once you get in your head, and I think I said this a little earlier, so sorry for repeating myself, but once you get in your head and you start caring about what other people think, you're caring about them versus what you're saying, and then you screw up.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I've been and to me, if I don't have those resets during the middle of the day, and I go into a big presentation, and I get in my head, I'm saying what I think they wanna hear versus what I know matters and what I know is true, then that screws it all up. So, I don't
Right.
wanna do that anymore. I've done
Mhm.
that a lot in my career.
This like was really good because I know that's something I also have been working on. It's a process and it is, I love the reminders that I got little tingles when you said that. It's like, I think I need those. I need reminder for someone that says something. Oh,
Yeah, they're helpful. Little affirmations on your phone that pop
yeah.
up with a reminder.
I'm a big fan of the affirmations. I'm not gonna lie. I find them to be very, very helpful. In fact, I've done it with I put things on my kids' mirrors that have stayed there for
Mhm.
years. They wash their mirrors, but leave, you know? So we all need them. We all need those reminders.
I
Let's be
love an
honest.
affirmation. I like
Yeah.
how you do that for your kids. That's so
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. So no, wait, did you start a podcast? I felt like I read something about that.
I did. I started a podcast, I think maybe 6 months ago, 5 or 6 months ago. It's called Corporate Culture Shock with Blair,
Great.
and it is a micro I call it a micro podcast. It's about 10 minutes an episode, and we talk about things like this on there, actually.
Good.
So, you'll have to come on and talk a little bit with me too for 10 minutes about a
I'd love
specific
to.
topic of
Great.
your choosing.
And
But
that's everywhere. Everyone people can
it's
find it all the
actually thank you for
okay.
saying that. It's streaming only on Spotify right now, so you can find it there.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And then I always love to ask, you already mentioned something, so we may not have anything here, but just in case you have something else, because I love the feeding your mind. I love that you talked about rattle candor. Is there anything else that you feed your mind with in a positive way that you find benefits you and that could benefit others as well?
I mean, to get really woo-woo here,
Woo. There's
as
a lot of science behind woo woo, people. Okay. You can say woo woo, but the science is now backing it.
and this I know science backs this, but I do meditate. I try to meditate every
Mhm.
morning for, like, 15 minutes, right when I wake up. I really feel the difference when I don't do it versus when I do it and how my day goes after that.
Absolutely. And really it's a cumulative thing. I was just saying this the other day. I think I was just feeling a lot more anxious and stressed about things and I specifically said it's like I haven't meditated in a week.
Mhm.
It was probably been a week and a half actually, just because of all the different holidays and things. And normally I do it every morning and I had gotten out of it because it'd been go, go, go. And I could absolutely feel it in my body. I could feel it in my mind. It is so beneficial on so many levels. I literally am like, this is why I feel this way. I really need to go meditate. This
And if you have a hard time doing it in silence, I actually use, like, some sort of just any kind of guidance they have on YouTube,
I do,
right?
yes. No, those are my favorite. I love a guided meditation because for people, and I actually talk about this with a guest that just recently came out. Exactly that, because I struggle with the silence, and a lot of people will give up because they're like, "Oh, I don't want to sit there in silence," or "I don't want." I'm struggling with the breathing or what have you. And
Mhm.
I find that the guided meditations are just a great way to start the meditation process and make a huge difference. It harnesses your brain in the right way, right? It gives
Mhm.
your brain that beautiful guidance to start the day off in the right way. something we all need. I am a big fan. Where do you like, is there something that you would suggest for someone who's never started? Is there one that you would suggest on YouTube to go check out?
I don't have a great recommendation. Actually, I don't know if anyone listens to Joe Dispenza, but he has,
Mhm.
like, this 15-minute morning meditation that is just great.
Yeah.
So that's who I'd listen to, but
Yeah, he is good. I like that.
each his own. I know the
Yeah.
Calm app has been a lot of people's
Yeah.
go-to, so
Yeah. I really Vishen Lakhiani has this 6-phase meditation. Essentially it's 20 minutes, but it's 6-phase meditation that walks you through 6 different phases of so basically you feel connection to the world, you feel love, you feel forgiveness, you think about your perfect day, you think about your perfect future. And so it has like all these. So it's
Mhm.
really nice.
I
It's a
need to
great way
try
to
that.
start the day.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much, Blair. I
Mhm.
mean, it's been such a great conversation all around. Before you go, I'm gonna just throw out a random question to you because I love to hear what people have to say. What are you sure of in life?
Am I sure of in life? Ooh, this is a great question. I am sure that I don't know everything and will not know everything as long as I live.
It's a great answer. It's such a hard question. I love to hear what people come up with because what are you sure of?
I'll never know it all.
Yeah. Blair, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was so fun.
It was. Thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast. If you find value in learning from others, give us a like and subscribe. If you're looking to grow your communications, marketing, public relations, or sales and biz dev team with the best talent and quickly, check us out at paradigmstaffing.com and submit a request. We are wishing you a most successful and fulfilling career. Until next time.